Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vedic religion, minimum remedy. Whether the present social setup changes back to what was existing before the British white man's arrival in India or not, whether it is possible to do so or not, we must ensure that a certain set of people are created and sustained forever, whose main and only job will be to take care of Veda Samrakshanam, that is, do all the things that a Brahmin was required to do as per Varna Dharma. I am not saying this so that the so called Brahmin community is nourished and sustained. It is needed for the sake of universal welfare. In other words, Loka Kshemam. The Veda sounds have come into being for that purpose. I am saying that the world's well being is dependent on Veda Shabdam. So I am saying that there should not be a single Brahmin who does not know Vedas. KTSV adds, turned inside out, the statement is the same as saying the person who does not know the Vedas cannot claim himself to be a Brahmin. The return of the Brahmin to Vedic way of life is the only solution for all the chaotic changes that have occurred in the observance of Varna Dharma subsequent to the arrival of Britishers in India. I am asking for the minimum. It does not matter if the Brahmins of today do not have the necessary courage, guts, determination, and sense of sacrifice. Ponal Pogiradu. Even if you cannot go back to Veda Adhyanam and Veda Adhyapakam, at least your children should be turned towards that direction. I am asking you to make arrangements to see to it that in the next generation there should not be any Brahmin who is ignorant of Vedas. Despite all your sufferings, if your reaction is going to be one of hesitancy and indecision, and you do not want to deny your children the option to decide their career, I will come down in my stand. For the sake of selecting a profession for their livelihood, you may arrange for whatever education is needed. Simultaneously, see to it that the children are given the license to practice brahmacharya by given the holy thread of yajna upavitam before they are 8 years of age. For the next 10 years, let the boy learn the Vedas for at least 1 hour every morning or evening. Every Brahmin child should undergo this. We are in such a pathetic condition that we may not find enough number of teachers required to visit each household for this purpose. Considering this and other financial reasons, I suggest that at a suitable location in each colony, district, or region, this may be conducted for a number of children collectively. Actually, such arrangement will enable children from poorer households to get tutored in Veda. By this process, they can learn in small capsules substantial portion of the Vedas and get trained in conducting some of the functions too. I am talking about this training in conducting such functions in addition to training in chanting of Vedas, because even if there were no more Purohits on a future date, somehow we can manage the conduct of some of these functions. I am wondering as to whether there will be anybody continuing with the profession of Purohits for livelihood in the future. That's why I am trying to take some minimum measures for such a likely eventuality. Thus, all of us should try wholeheartedly to see to it that Veda Shabda or the sounds of Veda are made to generate divine vibrations forever. This is for the welfare of not only the present generations of the Brahmin community, but for the well being of the whole world, including all the people of all castes, creeds, communities, and not only people but all life forms the world over. This is our duty, a divine duty, not only a duty which is a must for the welfare of the present generation, but a guard against committing an unpardonable crime towards the future generations. Some may say, what is he talking? Already no one cares for the Vedas. Who is going to care a hoot for Vedas in the future? What is the use of worrying about it now? I am not thinking on those lines. Everything is a cycle. What went down will come up. This modern sophistication will come down after it peaks. This will happen individually as well as collectively. Everyone, after going through all the experiences of modern luxuries, will realize that there is no real fulfillment or satisfaction in that. Actually, we have only increased our inconveniences by running after pleasures. US of America is a classic example to be quoted. People in America experience total disillusionment. There is more work through the modern gadgets meant to reduce man's workload. The sensible, intelligent among us that opt for yoga, Vedantam, bhajan, and so on. Others are taking to drugs and tranquilizers to avoid dissatisfaction. This state of affairs could happen in our country too, as long as there are some worldly pleasures still to be experienced. This running from pillar to post will continue. Then they will say, oh no, even this is transient and ephemeral. Then, when they come to good sense and want to pursue the Vedic way of life, we people of this generation would have committed a heinous crime if we do not leave chance or options open for the revival of Vedic chanting and teaching. We must leave the option open for them, even at that late stage, by not totally cutting off the connections to the past. That's all right. There are enough books on Vedas today. Our people and many foreigners have done research and written all that in so many volumes. So why not let them learn about all that on their own, at their own time? This can be your question. I have to answer that. There is another bigger question at the bottom of it all. I have not answered that yet. Let us form that question properly. The argument runs something like this. What is the meaning of saying that the sound of Veda mantras will protect the world? If you say mantras, they evidently are so many sounds. They are so many words. The words must have some meaning. The meaning may be very subtle and deep. Still, they can be read and understood. Why should a set of people be chanting them by mouth? Why should a set of people be devoted solely for this job? If the meaning of Veda mantras is not to be lost, there can be books or recordings with interpretation. You do not need a whole lot of people solely to look after books, is it not or so? Actually, all of those who chant the Veda mantras do not know the meaning. Not all of them are learning the order of chanting without fully grasping the meaning, isn't it? Then why are you saying that there should be a set of people protecting the Vedas by chanting it? I have to answer this question yet. Vedic religion, why protection of Vedas is a lifelong profession. Okay, we understand that there is some logic in division of work on traditional and hereditary grounds for the whole society, but what is the use of what a Brahmin does? Why should protection and practice of Vedas become a profession? What does the society get out of that? This is to be answered. Pot maker, washerman, cloth maker, shepherd, carpenter, shoemaker, farmer, and such are doing things as a lifelong profession as they are directly useful to the society and as a livelihood. They eat the rice and vegetables produced by the farmer. They wear the clothes produced by the weavers. What is the Brahmin providing? What are his duties? Brahmin is required to hear the Vedas, chant and commit it to the memory. That's called Adhyayanam. What he has learned, he has to teach others and make them chant the Veda mantras repeatedly. That is Adhyapakam. In addition, he should do his daily chorus known as Nitya Karma Anushtana and conduct various yagyas. Thus, his duties have been clearly delineated in the scriptures. Vedas have esoteric and subtle meanings. The modern world may accept if we say that its esoteric meanings are to be protected. Society needs knowledge, arts, etc. Since Vedas provide much knowledge, people may be tempted to recommend that its meanings and interpretations should be spread in the whole society. But the scriptures do not encourage such wide dissemination. It says that Brahmin is required to protect the sound of Vedas. Then he should directly, personally spread it in the society. When we say that the sounds of Veda should be made known to all the people of the society, it is welcome. But when we say that it should be kept in the custody of some, it becomes unwelcome. We cannot easily understand as to how the society can be affected adversely if Veda Adhyayanam is stopped, as it would be by the stoppage of essential services. To understand this, we have to understand the Vedas. It is futile to try to understand the Vedas by brains. It is better to have belief and faith in the words of the experienced. The moment I say this, there would be objections from the so called rationalists. How can it be, sir? We are rationalists. We will accept only what is understandable to our reasoning. Then what can be done? All things cannot be grasped by human mind. Everything cannot be understood by everybody. What a scientist does in a laboratory cannot be understood by a buffalo, for example. If it says that because it is not within its grasp, there cannot be no physical laws, what can you say? If we do not have to go down to the level of a buffalo or mule, isn't it? Even among human beings, those who have not learnt physics as a science cannot understand the laws of physics. When the erudite scholar in physics says something about its laws, the unread accept them as true. When they see the practical application of physics in day to day household goods, everybody accepts the law of physics. Similarly, you have to accept the words of people trained and well versed in Shastras. You have to accept them based on the noticeable practical benefits and evidences available. The biggest evidence is that this Hindu religion has survived the test of time, and how beautifully. Despite the opposition from within and without, it has not wilted but regenerated and thrived. It is not only the oldest religion but also has the unique record of having given birth to the greatest of seers, philosophers, Mahatmas, Maharishis, and Gyanis. This quantitative and qualitative excellence has been achieved without competitiveness. This has happened without the people asking that it should be within their grasp of understanding and because they believed and had unquestioning faith. The basic belief is that rishis are those who have crossed the outer borders of human comprehension. It is through them that the Veda mantras have become available to human beings. If one holds that human beings can never reach such levels, there can be no further discussion. If we point out the existing grades, one could say that they are all cult leaders, frauds, and opportunists. But to say that there can be nothing beyond human comprehension, saying so is a blind and narrow view. One can only hope that the rationalists who call themselves Paguttu Arivalar in Tamil may understand what I am saying. I will now tell you as to why the Vedas should continue to be nurtured and looked after in the traditional way. Since you have come to listen to me, ignoring a variety of political meetings or TV serials to which you could have opted for, even if you are interested only in my word play, I can only hope that you will not claim to be all 100% Paguttu Arivalvar. There is a chance that even some of the Paguttu Arivuvalar among you may think that there is some sense in what this Swamiyar is telling. Hopefully, you are likely to wonder as to why I am using the word Veda Shabdam and giving importance to that Shabdam or sound of Vedas. Okay, how is the sound created? Wherever there is a vibration or a motion or a movement, there is a sound or Shabdam. This is a rational scientific fact. The spoken word is composed of a variety of sounds. The sounds seem to be heard by the human or animal ear. From radio and telephone, we know that the sounds can be converted into electrical impulses not audible to the ear. Even the sight is based similarly on waves only, not only hearing and seeing, but in the nervous system and brain function is through electrical impulses only. This is what science says. Let it be aside. We will come back to this. In the world have come into being crores of inanimate objects, mountains, earth, rivers, oceans, and so on. So many life forms have come into being. There has to be one primordial being or thing from which all these have been created. That one thing or being moved and there was sound. Many movements, motions, vibrations gave birth to many sounds and creation happened. In the creation between inanimate and animate things or beings, there is a lot of inter and intra give and take. All this movement will and do create sounds. Not only this, science has found that even the very thought process is an electrical movement only. So every thought of ours is a vibration and has to have a sound. Since all these sounds are very subtle, they cannot be heard by the ear. The bacteria cannot be seen by the eyes. Similarly, there are many subtle sounds which are inaudible. Whether physical or mental, a movement must create a sound too. For each move, there is a sound that can be said as for which sound there has to be a movement. An artist sings. If we have to reproduce the same sound, we have to make the same or similar movement of the vocal cords. Actually, the movement and sound are simultaneous. After this creation of movement, sound combination come into being, material or mood. So, all said and done, it is clear that creation is from sound. This age old principle is proved by scientific reasoning too, and so should be acceptable to the rationalists, Paguttu Arivuvalar also. From the time of creation, if there is something like a start point for that, The sounds of all that has happened, all actions, all thoughts reside in space. When we clap our hands, the sound of the clap lodges in space. For all good and bad events, for each and every event, there is a movement and a corresponding sound. If we can create the sounds for good thoughts, people will think good thoughts. If all the people of the world can have noble thoughts, what else can be better than that? The Veda mantras have that power to influence people's mind to have such noble thoughts. Not only that, for life forms to live, they need food. For this, rain is essential. For a rain to happen, there are many preparatory actions such as evaporation, collection, and condensation. If we can make the sounds for those vibrations, rain can be induced. Similarly, the essential needs for life can be created through sounds. Even non essentials and bad events can be caused to happen through sounds. But Veda sounds are concerned only about universal well being. When we look wide and deep, we note that all the sounds and the vibration for the sounds and the actions or events in consequence all over the world are all not happening randomly in nature. Without a guiding and controlling power, random sounds can only be chaotically cacophonous. But what we see in the world and universe is systematic, disciplined, and interconnected orderliness. This indicates the presence of some supreme power whose movement and vibrations are responsible for the creation and sustenance of the universe, including the Vedas. That is why we say that Veda mantras have come from God. We have to take care of them, preserve them, and propagate them. The above statement is likely to give rise to a doubt as to how can it be that Veda mantras are audible to our ears while the sounds of space are not. How can they be same or similar? Let me answer this. What is in the universe is in the unit too. This is true mathematically also. Every part contains the whole and the whole anyhow contains the parts. This is also proved by science. Whatever is in the prapancham is also in the jivan. There is a Tamil saying which goes like this: Andathil ulladu pindathil, meaning that what is there in the macro is also there in the micro universe. So, by chanting Veda mantras accurately without blemishes through the responses in the human body, we can catch those corresponding vibrations for human well being. This may sound implausible to some. Are not there instruments in the human body to grasp the vibrations in space? Think as to how we are receiving the sun's rays. This is indisputable even to non believers. When there is sun in the space, our body recognizes the fact, seeing with the eyes and nothing the temperature difference by the skin. When there is a flower present somewhere nearby, our nose cognizes it by the smell. If there is sugar cane outside, there is the mouth with its tongue to know the taste. The eyes note the colors and variations of color. The softness or lack of it is sensed by touch. Thus, the human body has many sensors to cognize the world. Unless the part and the whole, that is the pindam and andam, belong to the same system, this interconnectivity and compatibility cannot be there. In other words, the life forms can neither live in nor be dependent on the world. One step higher is the awareness that not only the Andam and Pindam have been created by the same being, but the Creator is also the creation, which is also His recreation. Yogis knew this innately, intrinsically, and so could say with authority, Andathil உள்ளது பிண்டத்தில். Whatever is in the Akhanda Akasha, that is undivided space, is also there in the individual body. In the human body, they are there in a manner not discernible to the senses. If we can make a sort of noise of any sound in space, there is a corresponding counterpart. As a radio receiver receives the radio waves and converts it into audio waves, the subtle receivers in the human are capable of receiving the space vibrations and converting them into audible sounds. It means that what is required for human well-being can be achieved through such receptivity. Yoga is the science that could tune the human body for this purpose. Having cleansed the nervous system, it creates the clarity of mind and body to enable one to log on to those universally beneficial spatial sources. Through yoga sadhana means sustained and concentrated effort. It is possible to bring whatever is in the andam to the pindam, or in other words, interconnect. It is next to impossible if you ask for proof in a way you can understand this with your brain or mind. In our present condition, yoga is beyond our comprehensions. With our limited understanding, how can we comprehend what is beyond comprehension? The only way is to believe in elder statements, either personally experience through yoga sadhana yourself or listen to elders. All the people who ask these questions may not be able to do yoga sadhana. If I say follow a true yogi, question will arise as to how to identify a true yogi, how to make you believe that so and so is a true yogi. Somewhere, sometime, you have to have that faith and belief. Actually, that is the first requirement to believe, to have faith. Then you have to have sustained effort resulting in individual experience. Each successive step confirming and reinforcing the faith, leading you on to understanding and comprehension. I can have nothing to do with those who say that neither will they believe nor will they do sadhana. There is a stage at which one's perception is all comprehensive and sees the whole and parts interconnected, andam in pindam and vice versa. There are people who have reached that stage. They can convert what is subtle in one into tangible in the other. I am telling this to those who can believe. When we look at the universe functioning so smoothly, so effectively, with multi-dimensional arrays of interconnected systems from the subatomic micro level to the supercosmic macro level, we have to cognize the presence of one central power creating, sustaining, coordinating, call it by whatever name we may. It is from that one the first movement must have taken place, leading on to all that came into being. The world of sound is the initial, followed by the world of sight. All that sound vibrations are lodged in space. Whatever is in the space is also in the body. What is in the outer space, Akhanda Akasha, is contained in one's heart, Hridaya Akasha too. Yogis experience this space of the heart while in Samadhi. Then the separate perception of inside and outside disappears and everything becomes one. Hridaya Akasha and outer space becomes one. In this stage, yogis can absorb the sounds of the Akasha and give it to the world. Such groups of sounds, which are immensely fruitful to the world, are called Veda mantras. They have not been created by any human being. Though each Veda mantra is in the name of a particular rishi, in actual fact, that rishi is not its author. When we say that for each mantra so and so is the rishi, what is meant is that he was the first one to identify the mantra and revealed it to the world. They are called mantra drishtas, the seers of the mantra and not mantra karta, the doer. In our bodies, the breath moves in so many ways and makes human life possible. Similarly, God's breath is Veda mantra. In other words, Veda mantra is God and vice versa. They are both Anadi, Ananta, that is without a start and finish, that is always present. The speciality of the Veda mantras is that even without the meaning or artha being understood, they are world do-gooders in their sound form itself. In addition, they have excellent esoteric meanings too. All the Vedas in one voice say that all the world, with all its variety, is one and the same truth. Moreover, their sound is also their divine forms, and they cause the needful benefits of understanding, realization, and blessings. The sound does not do good benefits on its own. All the benefits accrue from God only. But instead of personally giving all the benefits himself, as a king or president governs through his subordinates, God too makes use of deputy divinities or devatas for the distribution of benefits. The sound is the devata's form. By chanting the mantra, you can see the form of the devata with your eyes, but it does take some genuine effort. If you chant the mantra and offer oblations in the sacred fire, that becomes the food for the devata's form or body. When you do yajna like this, the devatas can be pleased to give fruition. We do not pay taxes directly to the king or the president. We do it through his officers, don't we? Similarly, as God's deputies, we can and do pay the cess through the devatas for the benefit of the world at large by Veda Adhyanam and Yajnas. This benefits not only our country but the whole world. Even from a literary point of view, Vedas do not seem to be the meaningless abracadabra of uncivilized brutes, but have expressions covering the whole gamut of human emotions, say some of the foreign scholars who have studied the Vedas. Over and above, Veda directly introduces the sadhak to the mantra devata and evokes her blessings. More than anything else, the portion of the Vedas known as Upanishad gives us the supreme knowledge of the self. In addition to the high meaningfulness of Vedas, the Veda sounds are no less valuable. In actual fact, whether we understand the Vedas or not, the value of the sound is enough by itself to have the necessary salubrious effect. This principle is true of all mantras, that is, sound and its meaning are equal to each other. In many mantras, the sound is greater than the meaning. There is special power to the particular akshara or letter and swara, or pronunciation and intonation, and so meaning is only an explanation meant for the novice or unread. For example, the mantra used to relieve a person of the toxic effect of a scorpion bite has no meaning that lends into itself to being explained, but its effectiveness against the scorpion bite is beyond doubt. Actually, we are forbidden to talk of its meaning, but if you chant that set of letters is that style of intonation, it has effect against the scorpion bite. The vibration in space by the mantra neutralizes the poison. Each type of sound has power. There is a variety of mantra usage known as abhichara meant to hurt others. In this, the power is totally on the correctness of the pronunciation and intonation only. If someone was suspected of misusing such abhichara powers, their teeth used to be removed to make their powers ineffective. If we understand thus the power of sound, then the demand for translation of the mantra from one language to another will not arise. When the Divasa mantras are being chanted at the obsequies, the demand to translate the mantras in a language understandable by the departed father or mother will cease. KTSV adds, mantra is the most precise, accurate, succinct, brief, clear, and meaningful expression. So it stands to reason that anything written or said about the mantra's meaning can never be more meaningful. That is why chanting the Vedas is considered to be more powerful than any exposition about its power. Now, the sounds that will benefit all living things in this life and hereafter are in Veda mantras. This is so if you believe so. We should not ask questions such as how can those be audible to rishis when they are inaudible to us? To see what is unseen, we need divine vision or divya drishti. To hear what is inaudible to our ears, we need divine powers of hearing or divya srotram. By practicing yoga, such powers beyond human capabilities can be obtained. Now, KTSV adds, science proves the statements following. Human eyesight is limited to the visible spectrum of XGR. On either side of the spectrum lie the ultraviolet and infrared part of the spectrum. With some special devices, these can be seen. Human hearing is limited to between nil to 200 decibels. We cannot hear the sounds made by bats and whales, for example, without amplification. In smell, similarly, human capability is limited. The fly and bees, dogs and sharks have superior olfactory abilities. Touch and taste vary remarkably, and the only common point about them is that the human capability is limited. The human mind gets the input from these five peripherals, which are focused out. The sixth discerning and inputting device is the institution, which is internal and mostly silent. Yoga brings the five peripherals under control to enable the sixth to play its part. Now, it is an incorrect approach and attitude to try and test what the Vedas say by human capabilities. In fact, Veda is there to tell us about what is beyond the limitations of human capabilities of hearing and seeing and mind and brain. What we get to know, we do so directly. For this, we do not need the Veda. What cannot be proved by evidence, what is beyond the reach of our brain and mind, it is such truths that rishis with divine capabilities have come to know and given us. We do not see what is happening in other parts of the world. The newspapers tell us about it and we immediately believe them. What is not knowable by any instrument in the world, it is so know such information. It is to know such information that rishis have given us the newspaper of Veda mantras. They have to be accepted on belief and faith, at least initially. The faith will be reinforced with the passage of time as some benefits accrue, leading us on to the firm conviction that Vedas are pure truth. Even now, there are some evidences of the power of mantra. It is more noticeable in the misuse of the of mantras. In Tamil, this abhichara prayoga is known as eval or pillishunyam, that the very word mantram or mantrikam creates fear in people's mind. From this, we should at least deduce that if a collection of sounds can have the power to do harm, why can't there be such collection of sounds for doing good? Sometimes, somewhere, we also hear of some good news about the use of mantras. We read that there was a rain following the conduct of Varuna Japa. Sometimes we see such an event in our own city. In another place, there may be no rain, even after conduct of Varuna Japa. That does not mean that there is no power of the mantra. There are people who are cured by medicines and some do not get cured despite taking medicines. We do not blame the medicines for that. When the medicine is ineffective, we say that disease is far advanced. Similarly, when karma is too powerful, no mantra may be effective. There is another reason. Medication may fail if dieting has been haphazard. Same way, for conduct of yajnas, the participants are required to maintain strict discipline comparable to strictures in dieting. When they make errors in those restrictions, the desired effect of the mantra may not be there. Yoga Shastra is a science. In a physics or chemistry laboratory, if you make errors in the conduct, the test results will be going wrong, isn't it? Person working with electricity can refuse to wear rubber gloves or not stand on rubber or wooden platforms only at his own peril, isn't it? Similarly, in Yoga Shastra, strict adherence to restrictions on diet and personal hygiene is essential. In places where Varuna Japa has failed, I have found that some rules such as Alavana Niyama, that is saltless diet, had not been correctly observed. There are people who have personally witnessed a dead tree reviving in Tiruvanikaval. The Sthala Vriksham, a white navel tree called Jambu. Tiruvanikaval is called Jambukeshwaram for this reason, had gone completely dry except for some green patches in the trunk. Once when Kannadu Kathan Chettiars had done some temple Tirupani, Ekadasha Rudram was conducted for the tree. The tree revived at that time by the power of the mantras, even as the function was being completed. Each sound has an effect in the outer world. When some scientists repeatedly played some notes of the octave on the shores of a lake, the vibrations caused ripples of minute particles of water to form a specific shape in the water surface, shining effervescently. They could thus create a response for each note of the octave. This is proof of my earlier statement that by Veda mantra intonation, divine presence can be physically invoked as seen by rishis. The sound can not only be seen as light, it can spread in the outer world and cause a variety of effects. As it spreads in the atmosphere, Veda mantras could cause a salubrious effect for the world. Not only the sound, but the swara, that is, pitch, also has power. Some places The intonation has to be lowered, some at par, some raised 1 or 2 levels. They are called Udattam, Anudattam, and Swaritam, respectively, for lower, higher, and still higher intonations while uttering the mantras. Par remains unnamed depending on the starting pitch. Sabdam and Swaram together do the needful to make the universal powers beneficial to living things. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.